Hi, Sandy.
Hello. It took me a while to unmute.
Yeah, and I was wondering if you don't have the permission. You're the first person to join. I wanted to ask a question.
Sure.
You replied that you could act as acting chair. And will you be chairing today, or is it Patrick?
Uh, you're asking who was going to lead the meeting tonight? I thought it was Patrick. It was somebody else.
Okay. Yeah. I only got a reply from you and Patrick, so it'll be one of you.
Yeah. Well, I said I would do it if nobody else volunteered. And when he did, then it was just like, yeah, no, that's good. Other people need the experience.
Okay. And we
And so I
are
did nothing to prepare, I can assure you. So
okay. All right. Thank you.
sure.
All right, I think we're ready to start. I got 6 o'clock, and if that's okay with everyone, I can go ahead and read the script to get this thing going. All right, so thanks for joining our meeting held via Zoom webinar. When I call for public comment, please use the raised lower hand feature to let me know you wish to be recognized. The host will allow you to talk and you'll need to unmute your mic. If you've joined us by phone today, you can raise and lower your hand by pressing *9 and mute. Oh, sorry, you can raise and lower your hand by pressing *9 and mute and unmute using *6. If you are participating by phone, I'll call on you by reading the last 4 digits of your phone number. If you are participating by computer, I'll call the name that was listed when you entered our webinar. So this is the meeting of the City Board of Adjustment for March 24th, 2021. I'm Patrick Brittigam. I'm just acting as the chair today since Hans and John are not here. So I think for the first item, that was the call to order, and we'll do a roll call now, I believe. And I think typically the admin, oh, there she is. Okay.
Yes. Sorry. Took a minute for the page to load.
That's fine.
Sandy Mitchell,
Present.
Patrick Brigham,
Here.
Hans Hoffman is absent. Lance Coach is absent. John Newman is absent. James Sage is absent. Don Briggs.
Here.
Caitlin Hepburn.
Here.
Joseph Sekanek.
Here.
Thank you.
So I believe we have a quorum.
Yes, we do.
Great. So with that in mind, the next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the February 24th meeting. Can I get a motion?
I'll move that they be approved as written.
This is Caitlin Hepburn. I will second.
All right, sounds like those minutes will be approved as written. And this is the portion of the agenda where we open up to public comment for items not on the agenda. I'll read the script one more time just in case folks joined late. But basically, we are running a Zoom webinar here for the Board of Adjustment meeting for the city. When I call for public comment, use the raise or lower hand feature if you're on your computer, if you want to be recognized. I'll allow you to talk and then you can unmute your mic. If you've joined us by phone, then you can raise and lower your hand by pressing *9, and you can mute and unmute using *6. If you're participating by phone, I will call on you by reading the last 4 digits of your phone number. If you're on your computer, I'll call the name that was listed when you entered the webinar. So with that being said, if there is any public comment on items that are not on the agenda, now would be the time for folks to speak up. So go ahead and raise your hand or unmute on your phone. Okay, I don't see anything at this point, so just Just double checking. Okay, great. Well, with that, having gone through without any public comment, next up is staff announcements. Do we have any staff announcements? Doesn't sound like we do. Okay, I believe we have two public hearings tonight, one public forum and one variance request. And the first item up is the public forum for the Desmet Public School regarding the replacement of an existing manual reader board ground sign with an electronic dynamic display sign at 6355 Padre Lane, otherwise known as Desmet Public School. And Spencer Stark is going to be walking us through this.
Good evening.
I could see that just fine, Spencer.
Good. Good evening, board members. Before you today is a public forum request from the Desmet School District to replace the Desmet school sign at 6355 Padre Lane, otherwise known as Desmet School. The site is located east of and adjacent to Butler Creek Road and north of and adjacent to Expressway. The site is zoned M1R2, limited industrial residential, and is joined by M12 to the west and OP3, open space zoning designation, to the east. The surrounding land uses are a recreational facility to the west, ball field. To the east is commercial and industrial and some office space. To the north are some residential uses and a government building. And to the south is a vacant lot. The existing sign is a manual change reader sign. The school district is proposing to vary from Title 20, the zoning code. Montana Code annotated Title 76, Chapter 2, Part 4 allows public agencies to propose to use public land contrary to local zoning regulations if a public hearing is held. Public hearings are required to allow for comment on the proposed use. The Board of Adjustment does not have the power to approve or deny the request. The two sections of code of Title 20 that Desmet County or School District is proposing to vary from are Section 2075-070F1, which prohibits the dynamic display sign in the M1R2 Limited Industrial Residential District, which is the district that they're in. The second section that they're proposing to deviate from is Section 2075-70F2, which states that the dynamic display portion of a sign may not exceed 50% of the total area of the sign. The proposed dynamic display will comprise 60% of the total sign area, which exceeds the maximum area allowed. This is the proposed sign. It is 13 feet tall with a static portion, which is 20 square feet, and a dynamic display portion, which is 30 feet. You can see on the slide, the static portion is the one reading Desmet Public School, and the dynamic display portion is the one displaying Have a Safe Thanksgiving. We did receive comment from the Mobility and Infrastructure Planning as part of the MPO. The comment was expressed concerns over the addition of the dynamic display, particularly the impact to drivers. Digital signage is a significant, the comment indicated that digital signage is a significant distraction for drivers due to the effect on glance duration, driver speed, Collateral control, mental workload, and the ability to follow road signs. The comment emphasized the effects as being significant to the school zone, as the distraction to drivers may impact the use of bike and pedestrian transportation in the area. The comments also suggested that if the school district it was intent on using a dynamic display, that they review the effects of outdoor advertising display on drivers' safety, which is published by the Department of Transportation, and they linked that in their comment and modify the plan to incorporate the recommendations found in that document. We received no public comment on this item, and staff does not have any recommendations as there is no motion or action. I believe James Blom or Jim Blom is in attendance, and he's prepared to take any questions. And perhaps that is all staff has for their presentation at the moment.
Sorry, Spencer, was Jim going to say anything?
I believe he's prepared to answer any questions that the board may have.
Okay. Does the board have any questions or comments?
Chair, I do have a question for.
Go ahead.
Do we know what those recommendations were from that article?
From briefly reviewing it, it was quite lengthy. The article recommended reducing the illumination of the sign so that it's not as bright, and then reducing the sign area and limiting the amount of motion that the sign produces. And the specifics are found in that report. They mentioned, the degree of illumination and I believe foot candles. So I don't have those specific guidelines in front of me though.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Well, since we're acting as a public forum for comment on this, there is no staff recommendation, no motion. So that is all that we have for this one. I believe that we can move on to the variance request for 1600 Sherwood, unless anyone has anything further to mention. Okay, well, I believe Caitlin McCafferty will run us through this one.
Hi, I'm Caitlin. This is my first BOA, I think, so nice to meet you virtually. Let me get this up. Okay, can y'all see that?
Yep, we can see it.
Okay, is there a raised hand in the chat? I have like a notification that says someone raised their hand. Maybe it's old.
Yes, it looks like there is. Thank you for mentioning that. Oh, and it's someone on the phone. So let's, sorry,
I'll pause.
Kate, thanks. Yep. Let's take a pause. If you are on the phone, you can go ahead and unmute and jump on. And in order to mute and unmute, just hit *6 on your phone. And I only have the last 3 numbers. The last 3 numbers of the phone number that we are recognizing is 414.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, this is Matt Greason. I'm the principal at DeSmet. I apologize. I was actually at the courthouse and had to drive home so I could log in. So my bad on that part of it. There was a question about the sign. It's actually replacing a sign that's already there. And I don't know if that was mentioned in any of the comments.
Great. Is the sign that's there of the same character as the sign that's replacing it?
It is the same size, roughly. I think there's a few dimensional differences. The difference is that the sign that's already there, I have to put up those little letters onto the sign all the time. And this one has a digital read, so I don't have to climb up a 10-foot ladder once a week and change signs. It's not going to have any different illumination than the sign that we will probably see at Hellgate Elementary. If you drive by on Hellgate, they have the same kind of a sign there. So I apologize for coming in late on that, but I was trying to give you that bit of background too.
No, that's appreciated. Sorry, I forgot to run through and check for hands before I moved on.
No, I was running late because I was trying to push all the buttons as fast as I could. So I couldn't drive and text at the same time.
Well, thanks. I think that helps to clarify. Does anyone have any further comment on the public forum item before we move on, since we had that sort of follow-up there?
I was curious to know if you had read the brochure that was recommended by the Mobility Committee.
I had not received a brochure by the Mobility Committee.
I can forward that on after the meeting. I've been working with the developer rep, so I can include the principal here after the meeting.
Okay.
Like
anything else?
Chair, I have a follow-up question.
Go ahead.
This what is for the principal. In the by the Department of Transportation, some of the requirements or recommendations, rather, are any of those that you guys would be implementing or would actually hinder some of those recommendations? Sometimes recommendations can be kind of over the top and would kind of not be plausible. But are you guys planning on implementing some of those recommendations?
I'm not quite sure what recommendations you're speaking to, but the location of the sign is at the corner of Expressway and Butler Creek, which should be, by all rights, a 4-way stop, and I think is only a 2-way stop. And so it's when people are not, it's not that people are, it's not that people are on Broadway. So that's about the only part I can think about, and we're just replacing a sign that's already there. I'm not quite sure what the recommendation is that I would need to know. But if you can enlighten me, that would be helpful.
The purpose of this meeting is to notify, I guess, Spencer Stark, Associate Planner, is to notify and allow for public comment. I've been working with Mr. Blum, who is the developer representative for this project, and we have forwarded on that communication to him prior to this meeting. I'm not sure the principal is aware of the recommendations at this time, but I'll forward on those recommendations after the meeting. There'll still be a need to submit sign permits for this project. So even though it's in, deviating from Title 20. So I will send those for them to consider after this meeting.
Hey, this is Matt. I'm Mike.
We still have you there? Can't tell if we're still on the line.
Okay.
Then, but nope. Great. Did you hear that?
And then they have some questions.
Oh, sounds like he might be jumping onto another call or have tried to call in somewhere else. So I think we can safely assume that you will forward those on. Okay, Caitlin, if we want to jump on, I'll keep an eye on the hands this time, and we can go from here.
All right, round two. Okay, can y'all hear me and see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, good. Great. Hello, Caitlin McCafferty. I'm an associate planner with the Permits and Land Use Division at Development Services and CPDI. We have a setback requirement variance request that's submitted by Jay Kirby, who is the architect on behalf of Yuval Anvil and Terry Roberts. We're the owners of the subject property. The goal is to create a breakfast area on the east side of the house. It's a single family residence. And the breakfast area comes in the form of an addition to and a small expansion of the existing kitchen, which we'll dive into. So here in yellow is the subject property. It's 1600 Sherwood Street at the northeast corner of Sherwood and Cowper Streets. 2035 Missoula Growth Policy. The subject property has a land use designation of residential medium to high density. And the purpose of this land use designation, it's really aimed for residential development ranging in density from 12 to 23 dwelling units per acre. It's intended for close to the core of the community and where city services and infrastructure are readily available. But the pattern of existing development right now is less intense than primarily multi-dwelling buildings. It's majority single family residences. The property is zoned RT 2.7, and it's completely surrounded by the same zone, which is a residential zoning district. These are the surrounding properties. As you can see on the east one, which is right here on Cowper Street, right across Cowper Street, there's this big slope, which visually makes the setback really large. You can see this like stop sign here. So like the property line is there. This is very similar to the subject property. So this is its neighbor, which is worth putting a pin in and noting. Existing conditions. This is the subject property as it exists right now. The areas highlighted in yellow are where the additions are proposed. As you can see, more so on this bottom picture, there is that same type of slope, and I'll illustrate it more in further slides. This is a rendering of the proposed addition to the house, again, highlighted in the yellow box. As you can see, the proposed addition, it's a breakfast area. It's gonna, or no, wait, that's for the floor plan. It's highlighted in yellow, and you can see the outside. And even after the proposed addition, so this includes the variance, assuming that it's approved, it still looks significantly set back from the street. It's about 25 feet from the sidewalk, and it's also raised 6 feet, which impacts the setback visually. This is the floor plan. It's highlighted in yellow is the part that is new. So this is the addition. This is the added breakfast nook right here. As you can see, it comes right off the existing kitchen. And then these parts are new as well. These little 8x8 posts in the slide before with that rendering, it's like this. It's just this part is new. And then this is the main, chunk of the addition. And the addition total is 132 square feet added. This is the proposed site plan. So for orientation's sake, pink is the property line. This gray is the setback line. The existing house is the hatched blue, and the proposed addition is this cross-hatched like teal. And these are these new little planter things. And so you all can see that the house already encroaches into the setback. This is because it was built in the 1920s before zoning ordinance were established, which gives this house legal non-conforming status when it comes to its zoning setbacks. So as it stands now, the house has a slanted footprint, and it goes from the north side right here on my cursor. It's set back 4 feet 9 inches, and then slants back down towards the south on the east, and then meets that 10-foot setback, which is the Title 20 requirement. So it's got this slanted setback as it is, and then the proposed addition is eating into that setback closer to the property line right here. Here's a closer look with measurements. As you can see right here, this is like the southeast. It is the southeast. And this is the maximum area added to the existing building. So it's 6 feet 6 inches at its longest, the addition, which encroaches from where it's standing 6 feet, and it makes it about 16 inches from the property line. And what's really important to note is that here's the property line, this pink line. If the addition is built 16 inches, it's still over 25 feet away from the existing sidewalk, which abuts Cowper Street, which is that street side setback. So even though this is inching up really close to the property line, it's still over 25 feet away from the street and its sidewalk. And this is because in 2018, Cowper Street is severely sloped. You all saw on the initial slides how that Cowper Street is sloped, and it was narrowed by 10 feet to accommodate a new sidewalk in 2018. It was a city project, which narrowed Cowper Street and made the house even further away from the street. Despite this distance, the addition does add intensity to the nonconformity that exists. So it does not meet Title 20, which is why we're here today requesting a setback. Here's a breakdown of the required, existing, and proposed setbacks for this house. So first column right here, we have the setbacks, sides. Here's the minimum required setbacks by Title 20 for RT 2.7. This is the current legal nonconforming setback. So this is the house as it stands now before any proposed addition. What's important here on the side that we're looking at is the street side. Title 20 requires it be 10 feet setback. It's set back between 4 foot 9 inches and 10 feet. Remember, it has that slant, how it existed already. And the proposed addition wants to take it from that slant 4 feet 9 to 10 feet to being 16 inches at its closest. So that's taking it from this and then making right here 16 inches to the property line. That's what's being proposed. The max addition again is this right here, 6 foot 6 inches from the existing house. That's the biggest encroachment that they're proposing, and the total addition is 132 square feet. Here are the proposed elevations of the house. Areas highlighted in the yellow squares are the proposed project areas. And this map exemplifies very well, I think, and summarizes the proposal. So this is the slope category map. Sherwood Street is on the bottom, then Cowper Street. The existing house is in red right here. You can see that the property line is in green right here. So even it sits right now, even as the house sits right now, here's the addition in the blue crosshatch. And so even if it was built all the way up to this property line, which is not, it still is 25 feet away from the sidewalk, and these blue slope lines show how severely sloped this property is, which again visually adds distance from the street, from the house to the street, which is the intent of having a larger street side setback. So in summary, the hardships of this case, they are that the existing house was built before the setback standards were in place. The neighboring structures along Cowper Street also extend into the street side setback area. The physical paved area of Cowper Street was narrowed in 2018 through a city project, which makes the house look further away from the street, and that Cowper Street has that steep slope. So staff reviewed this request based on the approval criteria per usual from Title 20, Section 2085-090G, and these criteria are listed on the screen and in the reports you guys have access to. For the first criteria, it was determined that the variance request meets the intent of zoning because the house, even after the proposed addition, is still over 25 feet from the street sidewalk, and the steep slope again visually sets the house back even further from the street. The second criteria was determined that the structure encroaching is the minimum to provide relief from the hardship, as it only adds that 6 feet 6 inches maximum encroaching into the existing encroachment. And the addition is only 132 total square feet. The addition has to be in the space that it is in because it's a breakfast area with a wet bar, and it needs to connect to the existing kitchen, which it does. Third criteria, it was determined that the zoning variance is consistent with the purpose of zoning code, and it will not hinder the purpose of Title 20 to promote public health and safety. And lastly, for the fourth criteria, it was determined that the zoning variance request will have no impact on the surrounding properties, mainly because the properties to the north and south also encroach into the street side setback along Cowper Street and across to the east. Also deals with the same issue. The surrounding neighborhood includes a mix of residential homes, so it's all similar uses. Which leads me to our recommended motion. Staff recommends that the Board of Adjustment, you all, approve the variance request by Yuval Avneal, Terry Roberts, and based on the applicant's packet, findings of fact, conclusions of law, and testimony at the public hearing, subject to the one recommended conditions of approval. Then the one recommended condition of approval we have is that any future development or additions on this property should comply to RT 2.7. Now I know that some of the screen is like cut off a little bit. So if you guys, along with questions, this is the time. If you need to see a specific slide, I can put that up on PDF too. So questions and then any slides or illustrations you want me to put back up, I will do that.
Thanks, Caitlin. Are there any questions from the board? Okay, if I remember correctly, we do, after we have the staff presentation, we have some time for public comment. And then we have some time for some internal discussion, if I remember correctly. So that's what I'm planning to do. And if I'm missing something or anything, let me know on the admin side, please. I think the first thing we'll do is open it up to public comment. And I see that there were two public comments received in letter format. Caitlin, I'm not sure if you were going to cover those, if you wanted me to cover those.
You can cover them. I
Great.
mean, they're in support. They're from neighbors who are supportive, and yeah, if you see any details that's worth bringing up, go for it.
Yeah, it looks like there's 2 letters in support of the proposed development, despite the fact that it would require a variance. And it does not look like there's any comments that were received.
Do you want me to share the slide?
Yeah, that might help.
Okay, I'll stop.
Great. I'm not seeing any hands or folks in the meeting that are on a phone, but I'll just run through this one more time just to make sure. We're calling for public comment on the variance request for 1600 Sherwood. If you are in the meeting, you can raise or lower your hand in the Zoom using the Zoom function, or you can unmute. You can press *9 on your phone. Once you press *9, that will alert us that you are raising your hand, and I can call on you, and you can mute and unmute using *6 on your phone. If you are participating with phone, I'll call on you by the last 4 digits of your phone number. So maybe I'll leave a minute, and it looks like there is one hand up. John Kirby, the architect, I believe, has something to add. Go ahead, John. You're still on mute there, John. Unfortunately, John, you're still on mute, and I can't seem to unmute you myself. It looks like you're in the Zoom meeting.
Now am I in?
There you go.
Okay.
Yep, now we got you.
What I was going to say is I live kitty corner across the alley from Yuval and Terry, and this is kind of a pet project of mine, because as I look out my back porch window, I look right at Yuval and Terry's house, and I think this addition is really going to create a character with their house that is going to enhance the neighborhood big time. You can see a garage that I own across the street from that, across the alley from that is my workshop, and the house that is right next to that I totally remodeled. And so this neighborhood is all of a sudden is really starting to become a really more beautiful place. And so I'm really excited about doing this project and having this addition to the neighborhood, which is going to be great for everybody that lives around the area. So thanks for letting me comment.
Thank you, John.
It's Jay. But
Jay Kirby. I'm sorry. Yeah, you're coming in as John. I apologize.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jay.
Okay. Thank you, Patrick.
All right. Are there any other public comments or comments from folks? It looks like Yuval is also attending. If you want to go ahead, Yuval, you can go ahead and unmute.
Thank you. Thank you for the time. I basically wanted to just make myself available to the board if they had any questions I'd be happy to field anything. Definitely appreciate the consideration. And I also agree with Jay. I'm slightly biased, of course, but I think it would add a lot to the neighborhoods. And we have spoken with our neighbors, and all the neighbors we have spoken to are very supportive of the project. So if any have questions, I'm happy to field them. Thanks.
Thank you, Yuval. Is there any other public comment at this point in time? I'll leave it open for just a second. All right, I'm not seeing any other attendees or panelists that have their hands raised, and I'm not seeing any folks in the meeting that it seems like we haven't heard from that are not related to the board itself. So that being said, I think we can close public comment for now, and we can open up internal conversation among the board about the request. So does anyone on the board have something that they want to say about this? Don?
Yes, this is Don Briggs. I'm new on the board. Looking at this project, this is the first time that I've ever seen it. Seemed like an unusual distance from the sidewalk to the property line to begin with. It's a small addition. Also, it's not a very garish addition. There's shed roofs there, so the mass and profile seems to be pretty minimal. I've run into situations like this on some of my own personal projects, and I would have to support the variance, especially when I see that it's 25 feet just to the property line. It seems awfully an unusual distance. So without any more information, I see no reason why we shouldn't give them a variance on this.
Caitlin, do you have any background info on why there's such a large, is that because of the street being narrowed?
Yeah, it's the street being narrowed, so it used to go out here, which is still pretty far, and that big setback is because of the slope is so steep, so the buildable area was based off of that.
Got it. It does seem like a fairly large setback, especially considering the slope. Any other comments from the board or questions?
I have a question, Chair.
Go ahead. Do you prefer Joe or Joseph?
Joe is fine.
All right, Joe, go ahead.
We have 2 letters of support for the variance, and obviously the architect of the project also being a neighbor, obviously in support of that. Is there any known opponents to this variance within the neighborhood?
No, our public process was we sent out letters to property owners 150 feet away. We posted on the site, so there's big posters on the on both the Cowper and the Sherwood Street side of the property, and then was posted online. We also circulated it internally to city agencies, so engineering, fire, MRA, police, the likes have all seen this too, and there's been no negative concerns or comments at all.
Thank you.
This is Patrick. I think, from my perspective, it's, there's no visibility issues. It's far away from the street. The street's already been narrowed, so from a transportation perspective, I don't see this street getting widened anytime soon. Let's hope, if we were thinking ahead when we narrowed it. So just on my part, I don't see any reason why this is contentious, really.
And this is Caitlin again. That discussion did happen with city engineering. And they said, although, never say never, however, Kevin Slovarp, city engineer, said it's highly unlikely that this street will be widened.
Any other questions from board members or comments?
I don't see the wording in the application, but I would move that we approve this application for this variance request.
I would second that.
All right, so we have a motion from Sandy and a second from Dawn to approve the variance request by Yuval and Avniel and Terry, Yuval, Avniel, and Terry Roberts based on the applicant's packet, findings of fact, conclusions of law, and testimony heard at the public hearing, subject to the one recommended condition of approval. I think we take a vote at this point usually, Soraya.
Do I call everyone's name or?
I think in this case, with no one speaking in opposition, we could ask, I mean, depending on if it's okay with you, we could just ask if anyone opposes.
I think, yeah, that would be good. Thank you.
So does anyone oppose the motion or the approval of the variance request? It looks like nobody is, Soraya. So that's unanimous approval. All right, if we're good on that item, then that takes us to other business, which I don't believe we have, but if anyone has any other business they want to bring up at this point, Sandy's got her cat running on her. She's got other business going on, but if anyone has anything they need to share at this point, let us know.
I think I'm unmuted still. I want to say thank you for approving this. I think it's going to be really a good thing for our neighborhood.
Yeah, Jay, thank you. Thanks for the presentation and for working with staff to get this thing together.
Great. Staff has been great.
Well, if there is no other business, then thanks to Spencer and Caitlin for their presentations today. Thanks to Yuval and Jay for attending, as well as, I believe it was the principal of Desmond. So thanks to everyone for attending. And with that, I believe we can adjourn this meeting, and we'll wait to hear about the schedule for our next meeting. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.